Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the President of the United States.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Clinton gave this speech 2 days after I asked the governor about it. You see, they're all part of the same club, guys. Until we realize this, we're not going to get anything fixed. Now, I'll go through some oxymorons and some doublespeak that the president engages in. He will thank David Rockefeller. He will say, I wish I could listen to what y'all have to say. Y'all know more than I do. All the rest of this BS. Guys, he is kissing their butt. And for good reason. These are the people that control Alan Greenspan, they control Clinton, they control most of the governments of Europe. He'll talk about free market reforms here in a second. It's funny, though. The CFR and the IMF told Russia to quadruple taxes. That's not a free market reform, and then their economy crashed. Why would they want that? Perhaps a criminal consolidation of wealth? Let's go through some of his speech. Please bear with William Jefferson Blythe Clinton. That's his name, you know. The team.
I'm glad to see Dick Holbrook over here. I hope if we can overcome the inertia of Congress, he will soon be a member of the team again. And I thank David Rockefeller and Les Gelb and others who welcomed us here today. The subject that I want to discuss, let me just say one thing in advance. I'm going to give you my best thoughts. We have been working on this for 3 years at some level of intensity or another. Going back to the Naples G7 meeting in the aftermath of the Mexican financial crisis. I have done everything I could do personally to reach out across the country and indeed across the world.
Oh, Master, save me,
for
David.
any new ideas.
Keep me safe,
from
David.
any source.
Oh, David Rockefeller. Oh.
I'm going to give you my best thinking today about what we can do. But I want you to know that I'm here, and if I had my druthers, this would be about a 3-hour session where I'd give this talk and then I would listen for the rest of the time.
But I'll meet with
So
David
I want
later.
to encourage you, if you think we're right, to support us. But if you have any ideas, for goodness sake, share them.
Okay, I will share my ideas with you, President Clinton. Resign now, but first abolish the Federal Reserve, abolish the IRS, and admit that you are a CFR out of Europe traitor. Please, sir, give us all the names of your contacts. Come out with it, Clinton, please. But I guess you won't. You're a machine of terror and lies and smiley-face bureaucratic BS.
I thank David Rockefeller. I thank David Rockefeller. I thank David Rockefeller and Les Gelb and others who welcomed us here today. Others who welcomed us here today.
Look, I don't want to sit here and be nitpicky about the president, but take a long look at the strange body language. Is he pleading to David Rockefeller that is sitting to his right? Or is he giving him a hateful look? This is a guy who's a master of body language. We've all seen the Ron Brown tape where he's coming out of the funeral laughing and in 2 seconds goes to tears as soon as he sees a camera. I don't know if there's some inner fighting going on or what. I know he gave David Rockefeller the Freedom Award and said, there were only 2 people back in 1968 that thought I could be president. That was my mama and David Rockefeller. And then he gave him the Freedom Award. Probably the most powerful man in the world and probably the most evil, in my opinion, David Rockefeller. People that made their money off Hitler and Stalin. By all means, they did. But that's historical fact. UT professors, you know it's true. How dare you support these criminals? But I'm taking too long here. Let's get into the meat of the speech, not just strange body language and thanking the Rockefellers.
Is that for the last decade, the growth of freedom around the world, with more than half the people in the world living under governments of their own choosing. More than half the villages, the 1 million villages in China now, even electing their own governments. and this sweeping replacement of command and control economies by market economies. I think it seems to have happened so easily, so effortlessly, so inexorably.
Where do you want me to start? He just said that China is electing its own people. Oh, yes, it's so free with 30 million enslaved labor camps. Oh, yeah, that's really loving and good, sir. Running over people with tanks in Tiananmen Square for having Statue of Liberties and American flags. And then you talk about free market reforms worldwide. Central governments are growing. Oh, the old line communism that Mr. Rockefeller funded, his father did, has fallen apart, and we've fully taken over. Not we, but you, the CFR. Now listen to the code language. Talking about how free market reforms, remember, they're calling China free and big government free, so everything is backwards. It's doublespeak. He's calling that freedom. He's calling that free market reforms. So what does it mean when he says how easily they're taking over the world, or free market is? That means slavery is. Listen to the code language. Yes, they're subduing us quite easily. We're laying down quite well. There's worse to come, though.
The last decade, the growth of freedom around the world, with more than half the people in the world living under governments of their own choosing. More than half the villages, the 1 million villages in China now, even electing their own governments. And this sweeping replacement of command and control economies by market economies. I think it seems to have happened so easily, so effortlessly, so inexorably.
Okay, well, you've heard the doublespeak. I'm not going to get back into that statement anymore. Yes, central banks controlled by Europe and London and New York are taking over. We'll get into Russia in just a few minutes. It's a perfect textbook example of what we've done to them. Why do I keep saying that? It's not we, it's them, CFR.
Obviously, we have profound interest here. It is a great irony that we are at a moment of unsurpassed economic strength at a time of such turmoil in the world economy. I think all of us in this room know that our future prosperity depends upon whether we can work with others to restore confidence, manage change, stabilize the financial system, and spur robust global growth.
Well, that's wonderful, President Clinton. Now, what did you just talk about? Managed global economies. Is that free market? I thought earlier that we're moving away from command and control. You know, if I wasn't so lazy, I'd go back and put those clips together, but I'll trust the people saw it earlier. Did you see what he did? He said, moving away from command and control, and now we need global management and managed change and all the rest of this. Now, I'm trying to get it straight here. They're taking our money, U.S. taxpayer money, going and paying off politicians from Indonesia to Russia to quadruple their taxes to pay the IMF profits. But the politicians in those countries get to keep the kickback money. Who suffers? The people of the planet, not that filth on the screen and the filth in that audience.
Clearly, the balance of risks has now shifted, with a full quarter of the world's population living in countries with declining economic growth, or negative economic growth. Therefore, I believe the industrial world's chief priority today, plainly, is to spur growth. It seems to me there are 6 immediate steps we should take to help contain the current financial turmoil around the world.
Okay, before we get into the 6 command and control steps, let's back up to what he just said. President Clinton just said to the CFR and David Rockefeller that, quote, we need to spur economic growth. We need free market reforms. Russia did what we told them 2.5 months ago. They quadrupled the income tax. Now, that's the problem. All these third world nations are in such incredible debt to the IMF and the World Bank, just like we are Americans. It's total lies. It's total doublespeak up there on the podium. This is a public meeting, people. The CFR is secret. They've only been having public meetings for the last 19 months, by the way, and they're all this garbage. They are liars. Not what they say, but what they do. That's what you watch. And they told Russia to quadruple taxes. They told Indonesia. They told South Korea. That is not free market. It's to pay them the money. God.
Clearly, the balance of risks has now shifted, with a full quarter of the world's population living in countries with declining economic growth or negative economic growth. Therefore, I believe the industrial world's chief priority today, plainly, is to spur growth. It seems to me there are 6 immediate steps we should take to help contain the current financial turmoil around the world, and then 2 longer-term projects in which we must be involved. To take the immediate first, we must work with Japan, Europe, and other nations to spur growth. Second, we will expand our efforts to enable viable businesses in Asia to emerge from crippling debt burdens so they can once again contribute to growth and job creation. Third, we've asked the World Bank to double its support for the social safety net in Asia to help people who are innocent victims of financial turmoil.
Well, I mean, what is he talking about? That's political payoffs to the governments to quadruple taxes. That's going to help the people. I mean, it's international welfare. They get them sucked in, get them addicted like a heroin addict, and they put them on the slave reservation. That's the world system. It's unbelievable, and it destroys nations, but it consolidates their power, don't worry.
Fourth, we'll urge the major industrial economies to stand ready to use the $15 billion and IMF emergency funds to help stop the financial contagion from spreading to Latin America and elsewhere. Fifth, our Ex-Im Bank, under the leadership of Jim Harmon, will intensify its efforts to generate economic activity in the developing world immediately in the next 3 months. And sixth, Congress must live up to its responsibility for continued prosperity by meeting our obligations to the International Monetary Fund. Secretary Rubin has been working with his counterparts in the G7 to get cooperative support for several of these measures. I understand Chairman Greenspan is also consulting with his counterparts on these items as well. As we take these immediate steps, we also must intensify our efforts to reform our trade and financial institutions so that they can respond better to the challenges we now face and those we are likely to face in the future. We must build a stronger and more accountable global trading system, pressing forward with market opening initiatives, but also advancing the protection of labor and environmental interests, and doing more to ensure that trade helps the lives of ordinary citizens across the globe. Above all, we must accelerate our efforts to reform the international financial system. Today, I have asked Secretary Rubin and Federal Reserve Board Chairman Greenspan to convene a major meeting of their counterparts within the next 30 days to recommend ways to adapt the international financial architecture to the 21st century.
What he's talking about is banking consolidation, okay? They're taking everything over. Get ready. I'm sure you're going to love it. If you love Hitler, if you love Stalin, if you love Mao, you are going to love this, my friends. You're going to love it.